To order at 3 p.m. Alicia.
Please note, council meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 17(2)(g) of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to foip, F-O-I-P, @highriver.ca.
Thanks, Alicia. Adoption of the agenda today. So I'm going to ask for one amendment to the agenda, which is removing item number 4 being the public comment section, the first one only, simply due to the citizen delegation that we have regarding the petition that will take some time to get through. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that Council adopt the agenda for the regular council meeting October 28th as amended.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. You have my motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Previous meeting minutes approvals. Ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that an omnibus motion adopts the October 15th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes as presented. And were amended slightly this morning to add a couple of pieces in from Mrs. Moncrief's email in accordance with council's procedure bylaw.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. So 3 delegations today. The first one is from Careers, and Shane and Alan are here. Looking forward. And you can turn their mics on, Kent? Yeah, you bet.
Test. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Go through your service. All right. Excellent. Well, firstly, I want to thank Council for having Ellen and myself here to speak to the Council and kind of let you know some of the great and exciting work being done in the area with youth exponential learning opportunities. And I appreciate the 10 minutes you gave us, so I'll be very mindful of that. And we'll go through the material as best I can. If there's questions at the end and there's time permitting, we're happy to answer those. But again, thank you for the opportunity. So I'm going to see if my clicker works here. So as was mentioned, we are with, we're an industry education partnership founded 30 years ago in the Fort McMurray area. We are, again, my name is Shane. I'm the regional manager for Calgary Foothills, which encompasses Calgary and the surrounding areas, including High River, Okotoks, etc. Alan is our program coordinator lead for our rural communities and does a lot of the work with the school divisions and their various individuals that work in the integrated learning space for youth. Again, I'll continue to go through here and be mindful of time. So so we started in 1997. Again, this is from our last year annual report. Everything we do is based on paid internships for high school students, now up to 21, to kind of get a test drive on various careers. It's educationally based. Students earn credits. They also get that exposure into career pathways that are in demand for in Alberta. So the model's been scaling up. I've been with the organization for 12 years, and we're just finalizing our last year's numbers. We got to 4,500 paid internships provincially. And the Calgary Foothills region, I must like to say, was the highest placing region in the province. So there's a lot of great things going on in the community here. You probably can't see it too well, but to the right there, we have a very engaged board of directors, which is comprised of industry leaders, but also deputy ministers. The deputy minister of Alberta Education sits on our board, as does the deputy minister of Indigenous Affairs and Relations. So they're very tied in and invested in the work that's happening in our communities. So I'll continue here. We'd like to thank, as I mentioned, we're a private educational partnership. We have a lot of great supporters that support us not only in taking students and providing these opportunities for students, but also they help support us financially so we can go out throughout the province and provide these opportunities for youth. So we'd like to recognize some of those here on the slide. Again, our role is a facilitator. So we get in front of youth, we work with the various off-campus coordinators and learning leads across the province. We provide the opportunities across industry where these opportunities will be for students, and we are basically that kind of intermediary where we will work with students, put on events. For instance, we have a large event in Calgary on Wednesday at James Fellow High School. We'll get, and that's parent and student centric, we'll get about 800 students out to these events, and we have these events also in the rural communities as well. Our role is to provide these opportunities to students that wish to pursue one of these internship opportunities. Would be go through an application process with us as another kind of layer of vetting, and we are at all times, and talking to Alan before we came in here, if we're in your communities, we're engaging with industry partners. We're kind of getting them familiar with the process. Again, because it is an educational program. WCB is covered by the school division. Students earn the credits, and our role is to find the placement opportunities and to match those with local youth for those opportunities. And it's incredible work. It's very impactful, and there's a lot of good things going on in this community in particular. So I'll just continue on here if I might. Again, so I mentioned the high school credits. It's kind of try before you buy. In talking to parents, my own self when I started here, and I have high school age youth now, I really wish I would have had these opportunities to help kind of navigate a lot of the unknowns as they kind of get into adulthood. So that's very much our model, and we find that getting paid for the value and work that they do is a crucial component to that, along with the mentorship and the other kind of value adds for this program. All right, our program areas, we started in Fort McMurray to address not only the looming labor shortage that a lot of our founders were seeing as they were trying to expand, but also the youth unemployment rate, which there just was there was a real incongruence there. So that was the model. So we started with skilled trades, and that's still our foundational program. Many are probably aware that those shortages are looming, and we need to get those skilled individuals mentored by these departing retirees. Since then, always following the model of it's got to be in demand, it's got to be rewarding, and it's got to be augmented by post-secondary learning. And that is everything from university to technical schools to college, very much following the apprenticeship model. So we've gone into other program areas, which is great because it gives other students kind of exposure to other opportunities. ICT, we do a lot of work with Indigenous youth communities, providing extra supports and other opportunities for Indigenous youth. Again, always working with the schools to kind of collectively work through that. I mentioned it was high school when I started, the age, but we've gone to 21. That's kind of coming out of COVID, we realized that a lot of students miss those opportunities, so we wanted to kind of bridge that gap. So very much the primary area of work is high school, but now we have those extra years to support students. And you'll probably see that a lot of schools are coming out with collegiate schools, and they're going to be bringing students back for year 13. A lot of that is happening as we as the educational system is evolving, so we're there to complement that as well from our standpoint. Again, I won't read everything, but we have some, we're always looking to find other opportunities for youth. I oversee the aviation program for the province. There's lots going on in aviation, lots of opportunities beyond pilot that students aren't aware of, and this is a program that in most communities have an airport, and there's opportunities to get students in those internships. So that's an ever-evolving program, but one that's really really accelerating, so more offerings for students. Again, I mentioned the Young Women in Trades. It's a mentorship program that kind of helps prepare students to enter the trades and technology workspace. We work both with employers to provide those safe learning environments. An example that came up recently was an employer that didn't have a female bathroom, so they're building a female bathroom. So listening to industry, helping to inform them as to the interest level of females going into the trades, and this program continues to grow exponentially, as does our Indigenous program. So another program I wanted to mention. Again, I'm just going to scroll through in the interest of time, if I could, and I will provide this and some supplemental information afterwards as well. Safety is paramount for us. Again, the WCB is covered for students, but it needs to be more than that. Students need to be educated as to their rights, their responsibilities going into the workplace. So we have under the careers umbrella, we have a safe under 18 program and an online program that almost every school division in the province uses to get those initial safety training. And we're always being mindful of other kind of gaps, and we're coming up with new program that students get credits for as well to kind of support their placements. So that's a program that works under our umbrella as well. This is a real exciting pilot that we've started coming out of the Skills for Jobs task force. I hope I got that right. Eyes are failing me here. Basically, it was an initiative to augment the off-campus learning supports across the province. So it was a pilot project that is right in the mandate of Alberta Education and Advanced Education. And we actually have shared kind of careers people with school people in almost every school division in the province as an extra layer of kind of augmentation to kind of streamline things and get more students and parents aware of the program, and that's been a direct indicator to the growth we've seen over the last few years. We're in year 2 of that pilot. We have secondis in the area of High River, Okotoks as well, and it's been a phenomenal initiative, which we hope will be available in perpetuity after we show the success rate. So extra levels of support and integration. Process I'm not going to go into. I kind of mentioned it. We do events. We are nimble to the needs of the various communities we serve, and we can do events to kind of create more awareness for all those stakeholders involved, as I mentioned, parents, students, teachers, et cetera, and industry, of course. Again, we do the application process, we do the matching, we do the finding of the positions, which is, again, Alan was, before we came out here, had some really good conversations with some local industry that we are not currently connected with. Many we are, and it's just about closing the gap and creating those connection points. So that's kind of what our role is in the process. One thing I wanted to mention, how am I doing for time? Okay, thank you. We, in some of our rural areas across the province, we have formed advisory councils with champions and key players in those areas to kind of really collectively work and identify those opportunities or those gaps. And we have an advisory group that we're looking to roll out in this area. I've developed one for the central Alberta area and one in the southeast out of the Medicine Hat area. And the composition, it's very nimble. It's not a lot of governance and oversight. It's just bringing the key people together, discussing the issues, the challenges, the opportunities, and basically then using that to determine our next steps and how we best serve those communities. This is one that we've got some partners that have already expressed interest in this, both the town of Okotoks, MCG events. Again, they already do great events in your communities. We were at one about a month back. Just not reinventing the wheel, but working collaboratively together. Again, we have Alberta Jobs, Economy and Trade that have expressed interest, and others there, and of course the school divisions, and championed employers that see the value in this, that are taking students, that see the longitudinal outlook of where we're going, and they need to step up and provide those opportunities. So this is something we're in the very introductory stages of possibly rolling out. We'd love the town to consider a membership on this very lean, streamlined kind of a forum type committee. And again, we can speak to this later on if you require more details or context around that. Excellent. Wow, I hopefully didn't use my 10 minutes up. Again, thank you to council for having us out here. I will provide some other supplemental documents and a little context as well. It's great to get in front of the community stakeholders and the council. We've developed internship partnerships with other municipalities. Me personally, the City of Lethbridge, Town of Okotoks started last year in coming up with opportunities to bring students on. Both they started ICT on the technical side in Okotoks. In Lethbridge, they started more in like the facilities maintenance area, but there are phenomenal programs that have been established for many years, and if that's something that council would like to hear more about, we'd love to sit down and discuss that and how that might fit with your workforce development and other initiatives that you have going on. Again, I'm open to questions if it's permitted. Otherwise, again, we're very thankful for the time today.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Any questions from council? I see none, I hear none, which means it's a perfect presentation.
Oh, fantastic. Sorry for the fire hose of information there. So
no, it's good.
Again, thank you very much. We will follow up in the coming weeks or month. And yeah, again, thank you for your time.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. The next delegation, Rowan House Society update, Lynette and Carly.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Lynette Salden, and I'm the Executive Director, and this is Crystal Hoover, Community Engagement Program Lead. Today, domestic violence and abuse are at epidemic levels. Rates of police-reported intimate partner violence and abuse experienced in rural areas is 75% higher than in urban. On average, every 2.5 days, one woman or girl is killed in Canada. Abuse comes in many forms, such as intimidation, threats, and control, financial, cultural, spiritual, medical, stalking, and harassment. It is important to tackle the unfair assumptions, stigma, and shame that have been attached to domestic violence and abuse for far too long. By supporting us in your endeavors to erase domestic violence and abuse, you are helping the communities we serve. We're here today to provide a short update on some of the supports we have available for the residents of High River and how we can support you to make a difference for the people in your life or work who may be affected by violence and abuse. Our symbol is a rowan tree, commonly known as mountain ash. You may ask, why is the rowan tree our symbol? The berries often retained through the winter on the rowan tree symbolizes the endurance of life through the dark of the year, and the tree itself was said to afford protection to the dwelling by which it grew. The rowan tree has traditionally been associated with peace, sanctuary, privacy, and beauty. The rowan tree embodies and symbolizes what we at Rowan House stand for, that every person is safe and secure and lives without violence and abuse. We are proud to have several rowan trees in our front yard.
Rowan House Society serves the second largest geographic area in the province, with a total population of over 100,000 individuals. The areas served are Foothills County, the MD of Willow Creek, and Vulcan County. At Rowan House Society, we provide a continuum of trauma-informed programs and services to help break the cycle of domestic violence and abuse in our communities by providing crisis intervention, long-term support, and preventative education and awareness. First, our 24-hour support line provides telephone and texting response to all individuals seeking crisis support, information, or navigation to the program or supports that best suit their needs. The 24-hour support line is available in multiple languages through CanTalk. For the April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024 fiscal year, we responded to 2,294 calls and texts, which was a 15% increase from the previous year. Secondly, our emergency shelter, which is a short-term 30-day stay for women with or without children. The emergency shelter has 7 bedrooms with the capacity to support 24 individuals. In the last fiscal year, we supported 220 women and children, which was the same as the previous fiscal year. Children are remarkably perceptive. Their eyes observe, their ears listen, and their minds process the messages they absorb. If they see us patiently provide a happy atmosphere, they will imitate that attitude for the rest of their lives. Children learn how to treat others by observing how their environment that surrounds them treats others. We have a specialized children's program that not only allows children to just be kids again, but trains staff to provide them with tools for understanding their own big emotions and strategies for coping and healing. Last fiscal year, we provided 2,398 hours of programming to children. The fourth program is the Preventative Education Program, which strives to break the cycle of abuse by providing healthy relationships groups for women and education and awareness for youth in schools, as well as presentations to the public. We are pleased to offer lunch and learn workshops to anyone who is interested. In the last fiscal year, we provided 125 presentations to 6,230 students, which was a 25% increase to students. The fifth program is the Outreach Program, which is designed to address and meet the needs of all individuals, regardless of race, cultural or spiritual background, gender identity, or sexual orientation, through one-to-one contact and support in a community setting. In the last fiscal year, we supported 105 individuals, which was a 2% increase of individuals from the previous fiscal year, and we also indirectly impacted an additional 115 children. The sixth program is the Court Support Program, which offers information and support to clients by developing a better understanding of family law matters and protection orders, while ensuring individuals are provided with wraparound support. In the last fiscal year, we supported 84 individuals and assisted with 63 court orders. The last program, which was just introduced to Rowan House Society this year, is the Safe at Home program, which is designed to be an alternative approach to helping families experiencing domestic violence and abuse. The Safe at Home outreach worker provides support to the individual that is causing harm by providing one-to-one support, group sessions, and an option to access a cool-down approach.
Additionally, we have a data analyst who ensures data integrity and that all the work is truly having the impact we hope and expect. We have a facility and safety advisor dedicated to enhance the safety of all our staff members and clients. All these programs are accessible and offered at no cost to the generous donations and support of the community. We also do receive an annual grant from the government, but it is restricted to specific programs. Everything else that we do, we must fundraise through grants and donations. We are pleased to report, though, that this fiscal year we did receive some further funding from the Government of Alberta for our preventative education as well as our Safe at Home program.
Our focus really is on collaborating with the community. Since January of this year, we have attended or hosted 34 events. Our third annual golf tournament raised a record-setting $48,000, and we just wrapped up our 12th annual music event, Rhythms for Rowan House. We have also formed many partnerships where we continue to work collaboratively to benefit all members of our community. Through these events and partnerships, we hope to increase awareness in the community so that everyone who needs support knows where to find it. We are pleased to advise Rowan House Society will be honoring and commemorating our 25-year history in serving the communities of Foothills County, Vulcan County, and the MD of Willow Creek in January of 2025.
So how do we support High River? Last fiscal year, we provided 23 school presentations to 1,536 students in the High River area. We continue to offer our healthy relationship groups in High River. Last fiscal year, we supported 23 individuals through our healthy relationship groups, and our next healthy relationship groups will start again on November 6th until December 11th. 2024 has been significant to Rowan House Society as we entered into a new chapter by implementing our 3-year strategic plan, with a renewed focus on helping to serve even more individuals impacted by domestic violence and abuse in our communities. At Rowan House Society, we will not stand by and leave individuals to face violence and abuse alone. Our clients will continue to be the heart of everything we do as we continue to improve our client service delivery, processes, and systems, and the ease to access for our clients to the different services that we provide. Every endeavor we take will be to develop new partnerships and build stronger alliances to further enhance our client service delivery. Our goal is to ensure that we continue to reach individuals within our service delivery area. We know that everyone's path to addressing domestic violence and abuse in their life looks different, which is why we have so many options to help and why we're working to raise awareness of all these different options. Our hope is that after today's presentations, you will have more awareness about how you can refer someone if they do trust to tell you about their experience and what they're going through, and that Rowan House Society is here to help and support.
We would like to end with a quote by Nelson Mandela. "We owe our children, the most vulnerable citizens in any society, a life free from violence and fear. Thank you for helping us shine a light on domestic violence and abuse in our communities." And with that, we have a gift, this lantern here. It's the Lantern for Hope. Light unites people and brings feelings of warmth and belonging. It shines in the deepest darkness and shows truth. The truth we want to bring forth is that relationships are not a place for violence. Everyone deserves to feel safe emotionally, physically, and financially. The lantern is a symbol of hope and a reminder that the ability to shine light on darkness is available to each of us. This lantern was created in our playroom. May it remind you of light eliminating darkness. There are 2 ways of spreading light: to be the candle or the mirror that reflects it.
Thank you very much. We're done.
Okay, thanks, Lynette. Thanks, Crystal. Any questions from council? Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. My understanding, unfortunately, you're at capacity. Is that correct? And if there is opportunity for expansion, is that being looked into?
Are you able to repeat the question? I apologize, I missed that.
My understanding is you're at capacity currently, and if that is correct, are there plans in the near future for expansion?
We're always looking into that for sure. We've been having meetings with our board of directors and talking about some of our next steps. We do know that one of the things that is important is second stage housing. So when people do leave the emergency shelter, that they have other options of support. So definitely conversations are being had from a board level.
No further questions. Obviously, we're quite familiar with the work that the Rowan House Society does in town. It's extremely important. And the Purple Ribbon campaign starts November
1st, it's Friday, and we'll be seeing you, Mayor Snodgrass, on Friday at 1. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Sounds good. No further questions. Thanks very much, Lynette and Crystal. Appreciate it. The third delegation, Carol, Maureen, Victoria, and Iris, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having us as a delegation. Our delegation is presented into 3 parts. Part 1 is a petition analysis, which will be myself and Maureen. So when we look at the whole borrowing bylaw petition, the big question is, why did it start? And it was largely because of the Section 254 of the MGA, which Maureen had pointed out at the September 23rd meeting. So she's just going to read that out.
I'm just going to read it for the people in the audience that don't know what it says. The Municipal Governance Act, Section 254, capital property. No municipality may acquire, remove, or start the construction or improvement of a capital property that is to be financed in whole or in part through a borrowing unless the borrowing bylaw that authorized the borrowing bylaw is passed.
So after that meeting that Maureen spoke, I think it was September 23rd, we wrote a letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs about Section 254 in contravention. And then we noticed that there was a notice in the High River Times regarding that you could do a petition. And really, we didn't want to do a petition at all. It was the last thing on our desire list to do. We were very hopeful that the Minister of Municipal Affairs would actually just handle it, because we just felt that with the contravention that was quite a serious issue. So what we did is we waited for feedback from Minister McIver, and we never heard. And by that time, the clock was kind of ticking for the amount of time allowed to have a petition going. And so what this was about is we're a group of deeply concerned citizens about the financial and tax implications for this one capital project under a 30-year borrowing plan. So as mentioned, we were waiting, and just so people know that you're given 50, at least this particular petition notice in the paper, you're given 15 days since the last printing in the paper. So that brought it to October 7th at 4 p.m. would be the deadline. So September 27th was our very first printing of the very first sheet at 4:30 p.m. And then we just spread the news, and we had a September 28th kickoff meeting, which was very well attended, and we had a lot of very eager, enthusiastic community members. And although it was a stressful situation, it actually became quite a bonding and fun time. And I really apologize because I'm surprisingly very nervous. So our last signature was received on October 6th at 6 p.m. And we just had a little bit of a celebration that evening as well, just to honor our accomplishment. So according to the town's package, we had 1,814 signatures, and 117 were deemed invalid, and so that left us with 1,697 valid signatures. And so when you think about it, we accomplished this in 9 days. We had about 75 people doing different tasks. So we had lots of people going door to door. We had our headquarters being operated, and it was just really, we took a lot of learning away from how we could have made it smoother, but I think overall we did a tremendous job. So when you break it down, we were collecting about 200 signatures a day, and here was the big learning point, I think, for all of us, is each signature took a minimum of 10 minutes. And when I say that, that's really on the low end, because people were being informed about it, as well as they wanted to share their stories, which we will talk about. And the other thing to stress here, because sometimes on social media I was seeing posts that this was, saying that if you're approached by people to sign the petition against the aquatic expansion, it was not against the aquatic expansion. The petition is strictly against the borrowing bylaw 4633/2024. And the people who signed it were very well informed about that. So this slide summarizes what we heard. You may not believe it, but the referendum being overturned is still very raw on a lot of people's minds. Key thing is they felt that their voice was not heard, and that future public engagement opportunities were just viewed kind of as a tick box. Location concerns, top of the list as well. Many people were thinking that can this current facility handle the expansion? Lifespan of the facility was also a concern, because when you look at the original borrowing bylaw with a 30-year capacity for borrowing and the closeness about the length of the facility. Cost was huge, definitely affordability. We heard very heartwarming stories about the cost factor. And like one woman in particular, she had a little infant in her arms and she was in tears about already feeling the strain, not being able to afford shoes. And I couldn't help but look at her little lad and think that he'll be like over 30 by the time that the borrowing would be paid. So it's just things like that. And that was the nice thing about us going to them to hear. It was very, very impactful to hear people, like the welcoming that we were in their homes. Like it was, and just hearing their stories about affordability. And concerns also about the reallocation of funds. For example, the Riverside home sales, Centre Street project being put back, just questions about how come all of these funds are being reallocated to this one particular project. And then, of course, the significant impact on property taxes, because in the borrowing bylaw itself, it said that for each year, without saying the exact amount, that taxes would be raised. The other thing that we learned was how many people didn't know exactly what the project entails. A lot of people thought that for the $27 million that it was going to be a full Olympic-sized pool, so there was some educating about that as well. And through the discussions, because I would imagine some of the signatures that perhaps were not valid, it's because some people knew they actually couldn't vote in town, but they actually wanted to still sign the petition because they were really against the whole tax implication. And another trend that I personally found a little bit disturbing to note is that some people really, really, really wanted to sign the petition, but they were very fearful for repercussions, either from their employer or just the fact of about going against a project that they felt that council really wanted. And all I mentioned to these people is, isn't that more reason to sign the petition? Because we should never, ever fear our elected officials. So to summarize, like the whole experience, it was definitely community building and advocacy. Community was brought together, and also the feedback we had was how great it was that people were coming to their door. A very effective piece of our petition was that we left a flyer in people's doors if they happened to not be there. That had tremendous impact, because we even had a phone number at the bottom that if people couldn't make it to our headquarters to sign, that we would go bring the petition to them. And it's been fascinating, because once again, the gratitude that people had that we were coming to the door. So that's kind of a piece that I learned about for community advocacy for council, is sometimes, and I know you've got coffee with council and stuff, but it was really impactful about having that going to them and when they wanted it. And so much so that some of these flyers obviously are still around, because I've still had phone calls for people who want to sign, and of course it's long since been closed. People were very grateful to us for advocating for them, because we are a people-first community. And what we've learned, and we knew before anyway, but people are our greatest strength and resource. And just to be heard was so invaluable. And also just the fact that they learned that a small but mighty group could actually take some steps to make change and have accountability. So I want to thank everyone, like before moving on to part 2, but I really want to thank everyone who participated in helping to make this a great success. It was a super bonding experience. We've had tons of laughs over it, and you know, there's been tears as well, but the reality is what a fantastic reminder about this tremendous community that we call High River. So that's my part. Thank you. Yes. Craig will.
Oh, thank you. Let's do this. Yeah, it is now. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Iris Preeb, and I am a resident of High River. When the petition group knocked on my door on October 5th, I realized the opportunity to become a participant in the municipal decision-making process had been delivered to my doorstep. This opportunity prompted me to do some of my own research on the proposed borrowing bylaw. And the bylaw research led to a desire to learn about the town's budget, funding, and budget process. Today, I would like to share my findings from the publicly available information on these topics. I would like to start with a brief description of budget funding for the benefit of anyone in council, chamber, or online audience who may not be familiar with this topic. Thank you. All municipal spending happens through either an approved operating or an approved capital budget. And these approved budgets require funding sources. Determining which funding sources can be used for what purposes is based on various sets of rules. The MGA, or the Municipal Government Act, is the legislative framework under which all municipalities across Alberta are required to operate. And it is the legal document that contains many of the rules related to funding approved budgets. Other sources of rules are town policy documents and guideline documents related to other funding sources such as grants. With that understanding in mind, the first funding source I reviewed was the town's Tax Stabilization Reserve, or TSR. The town's approved reserve policy provides the rules for how the TSR is intended to be used. The definition in that policy makes it clear that the aquatic expansion project does not comply with these reserve rules. Additionally, this reserve is listed in the operating section of the Reserves Note 10 in the town's 2023 financial statements. This fact supports the definition in the policy that the intended purpose of this funding source is not for a major capital project. The next funding source I reviewed was the local improvement tax. The town's previous 2002 bylaw provides a good example of the purpose and structure of a local improvement tax, which is based on sections 391 to 409 of the MGA. These sections are the legislative framework that provides the rules for this funding source. And those rules make it clear that the aquatic expansion project does not qualify for a local improvement tax. A local improvement tax may only be used to impose a tax in a particular area to provide the funding source for the local improvement that only benefits that area. I also reviewed the historical borrowing bylaws, which are the funding sources for the town's current tax-supported long-term debt. There are 3 borrowing bylaws that support the long-term debt, Note 8, of the town's 2023 financial statements. Highway 543 Extension, Recreation Complex Fieldhouse, and Canadian Pacific Railway lands. Each of these borrowing bylaws was based on sections 251 to 258 of the MGA. which provides the rules for this funding source. The taxes collected under each borrowing bylaw are specific only to the purpose and terms of that borrowing bylaw. Once the principal borrowed and interest owing under each bylaw has been repaid by taxes collected in the time frame originally agreed to in the terms of each bylaw, the rules do not permit those taxes to continue to be included in the operating budget as a funding source on the premise of the original bylaws. It is also worthy to note that both the 2015 CP Rail bylaw and 2018 bylaw for the broadband infrastructure were signed by Mayor Snodgrass. This indicates that the mayor has had previous opportunities to understand the required MGA rules for borrowing bylaws. Another funding source I reviewed was the off-site levy, or OSL. The town has been collecting the OSL for water, sanitary sewage, and transportation infrastructure as a funding source permitted by the MGA rules, going as far back as at least the 2013 financial statements. As of January 1st, 2018, an addition to the MGA rules permits an OSL as a funding source for the capital cost of new or expanded recreation facilities. According to those rules, a bylaw is required to impose and collect payment of the OSL. On February 8th, 2021, Council passed an OSL bylaw which included 2 capital recreation projects. The first one was the Renovate and Expand BSRC, or the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Center, for a total capital cost of $27 million, of which $19 million would be collected from developers. Northwest Recreation Center was the second project, for a total capital cost of almost $52 million to be included in future levies charged to developers. Due to the appeal that was launched against that bylaw, Council passed an amended bylaw on April 26, 2021. That amendment removed both capital recreation projects. Additionally, the updated OSL report prepared by ISL Engineering, which does form part of the amended bylaw, includes the following 6 points for the Renovate and Expand BSRC project. Design Concept A includes the reno and expansion of the existing BSRC. Pardon me, that was point 1. Point 2, Design Concept B includes the new pool addition at the High River Library. Point number 3, the town has yet to determine which concept it will proceed with. Point number 4, this will be determined following a plebiscite in the fall 2021 municipal election. Point number 5, estimated 2018 cost is $26 million, and the inflated cost for 2020 is $27 million. And the final point, number 6, costs to be included in future levies when the town has decided upon a design concept. Since the 2021 amendment, the town has not posted an updated off-site levy bylaw anywhere on its website. To wrap up the findings on this topic of budget funding sources, paying for the spending that occurs in the approved municipal budget is just like paying your own expenses. You have to have a funding source, like a salary. But if you borrow to pay those expenses by using your credit card or getting a loan, you still have to have a funding source to repay what you borrowed. And with that in mind, next I would like to share my findings on the town's budget process. Again, I would like to start with a brief description of the budget process for anyone following along who may not be familiar with this topic. As mentioned, the MGA provides the legislative framework for municipalities, and it also contains many of the rules related to the budget process. One component of the budget process required by the rules is the adoption of the annual operating and capital budgets. The contents of an annual capital budget must include estimates for the amount needed to acquire, construct, remove, or improve capital property, the anticipated funding sources to pay for that amount. In 2015, the Municipal Government Amendment Act was passed and added Section 283.1, Financial Plans and Capital Plans. Alberta Municipal Affairs indicated that good planning is intended to provide information about future financial capacity, which is then used to inform the annual budget process decisions. This supplemental planning component of the budget process requires a written plan for the anticipated capital spending over a period of at least the next 5 financial years, starting with the 2020 financial year. The contents of a capital plan must also, like the annual capital budget, include allocated or anticipated funding sources. Council is required to review the capital plan annually, updating for any adjustments and adding an additional year. With that understanding in mind, the first component of the budget process I reviewed was the 5-year capital plan. The 2020 to 2029 final 10-year capital plan summary, posted on the town webpage, shows a line item for the BSRC Option A, Renovate and Expand. In the plan, amounts were added for 2021, 2022, and 2023, totaling $14 million over those 3 years. The funding section of the plan identified the Aquatic Pool Reserve Fund for the full $14 million. The definition in the previously mentioned reserve policy supports the use of the reserve for this capital project. However, the planned funding amounts were never contributed to the reserve. As of the town's 2023 financial statements, the balance of the reserve is only $387,520. Also previously mentioned is the amended 2021 OSL bylaw, which indicated that when the town has decided on a design concept, a 19 million share of the 27 million cost would be included in future levies. The required annually updated capital plan starting with the 2021 financial year is not posted on the town's webpage where the other plan is available. It is therefore unclear what updates were made to the future year amounts and funding sources for the BSRC and whether or not the plan actually intended to include future OSL as a funding source. At the July 11th, 2022 regular council meeting, council resolved to proceed with borrowing up to $15 million for the design and construction of an aquatic facility expansion. Again, there is no updated capital plan posted on the town's webpage, starting with either the 2022 or the 2023 financial years. That makes it unclear whether or not the anticipated borrowing amount supported by a long-term funding source was added to the capital plan as required by the MGA rules. The next component of the capital budget process I reviewed was the annual adoption of the capital budget. At the February 13th, 2023 regular council meeting, council adopted the 2023 capital budget. That budget shows a line item for BSRC Aquatics Pool as an existing project, adding $1.5 million in 2023 to the $293,000 carryover from 2022, for a total 2023 budget of $1.793 million. The budget schedule also specifically mentions that the town of High River will remain in full compliance with key provisions of the MGA. However, there is no mention of council's required review and update of the capital plan in either the schedule or the council minutes. This omission seems to confirm the reason that no updated capital plans were posted on the webpage, because none were ever reviewed. At the November 27th, 2023 regular council meeting, council approved design option 2 and directed administration to proceed with the design process for the aquatic expansion. At the January 2024 regular council meeting, council adopted the 2024 capital budget. That budget shows a line item for the aquatics expansion, adding $7.5 million in 2024 to the $1.239 million carry forward from 2023, for a total 2024 budget of $8.7 million. The budget documents also shows years 2025 to 2028, but it is not clear why the anticipated capital spending for the expansion beyond the 2024 budget is not included in the plan. Despite the fact that the 2024 approved capital budget was only $8.7 million, and no other planned anticipated budgets were reflected in future years, the following still occurred. At the March 25, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, an update was provided by engineering requesting to proceed with option 3 at a total cost of $19.6 million. At the March 25th, 2024 regular council meeting, the Strategic Priorities Chart update, which resolved that council adopt the updated top 5, included aquatic facility expansion tender in April. On April 17th, 2024, an invitation to bid was externally posted with a closing date of May 30th. The posting on Alberta Purchasing Connection, an official site of the Alberta government, listed the estimated contract start date as June 25th, 2024, and estimated end date as June 26th, 2026. Then, at the July 8th, 2024 regular council meeting, item 6.3 on the agenda included the following 4 statements. Statement number 1, council has tentatively approved borrowing up to $15 million. Statement number 2, be it resolved that council award the contract to construct in the amount of $22.3 million. Statement number 3, be it resolved that council amend the 2024 capital budget to reflect the proposed award amount plus other costs totaling $26.8 million. Point number 4, and further that council direct administration to return with a borrowing bylaw not to exceed $15 million. Although the estimated contract end date is June 2026, in the July 8 meeting, there is no mention of reviewing or updating the capital plan for the future year budget amounts, rather than amending the 2024 annual capital budget for the full amount. But more importantly, because the requirements for the capital plan were not followed after the previously mentioned July 11th, 2022 meeting, when council resolved to proceed with borrowing up to $15 million, council committed to a contract and proceeded with construction in advance of the required borrowing bylaw being passed. At the October 15th, 2024 Special Committee of the Whole meeting, the mayor presented a draft proposal for the pool financing. As already explained in the previous budget funding section, the Tax Stabilization Reserve and Local Improvement Tax funding sources do not qualify to be used towards the payment of the aquatic expansion project. And as also explained, once the term of each of the 3 historical borrowing bylaws has been fulfilled, those taxes cannot be collected under the premise of the original bylaws. Lastly, even if the proposed items were valid funding sources, the mayor's draft proposal contains a basic cash flow flaw. The contract is estimated to be completed by June 2026, which means the money for the full amount of the project has left the town's bank account. However, the full amounts for the proposed local improvement and historical bylaws have not landed in the town's bank account by June 2026. As a final wrap-up of my findings, I am very concerned that the facts presented raise serious questions about the validity of the aquatic expansion project, a project which clearly does not comply with many of the required rules for both budget funding and the overall budget process. I would like to emphasize that it is incredibly crucial to recognize that these rules form the foundational structure for a municipality's financial health and council's accountability to the citizens who elect them. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Vicki McGonigal, and I'm just going to provide a wrap-up. I assisted on the petition group, and I'm going to provide a discussion of some next steps. And basically, that's what are we asking of you, and what are we providing to you? Before I go any further, I would like to extend my thanks to CAO Prosser for a very timely and swift validation of the petition sufficiency, and we appreciate that work because it makes our involvement easier to pursue. Regarding the petition, that leaves you in a place of, under the MGA, of either voting to defeat the second reading, which would defeat the bylaw, or having a plebiscite. But as well, beyond that, we're asking you to have a look at and consider the deficits that have been raised by Iris's presentation. Those are very important, and they're important to you. At the end of the day, we're giving you a gift. And in that regard, I would just refer you to section 249(1) of the MGA, which talks about the civil liability of municipal councillors if you don't follow the rules, and some expenditures, not all. So we want to make sure that the community is healthy. We're also giving you the gift of warning you ahead of time. Let's do this. If you're going to do it the right way. I would second the comment as well that this has been a tremendous community building experience for us, and we'd highly recommend it to you. And in that vein, what we discovered, and there was some mention by Carol of misunderstanding, but there's real misinformation out there. I had one person say to me, well, I thought it was going to be a wave pool, similar to the one in South Calgary. And I said, well, I don't think they're planning a big full-size wave pool. But he was told by one councillor that it was going to be a wave pool. I don't know whether that was a hearing problem or an understanding problem, but that's the kind of misinformation and misunderstanding that your community has. So I would like you to hold, I think the committee would support me in this, I'd like you to hold some form of public hearing so that people understand what it is you want to do, why it is you want to do it, what you've done to look into the needs of the community and why you think it's important, and how you're going to pay for it. There may be other funding sources that you haven't looked at yet. There's more than taxes and borrowing. There may be fundraising opportunities that haven't been explored. Those need to be discussed at a public hearing. It may be that you need a longer-term plan. There are a number of options. We're asking you to take a deep breath and consider those. Any plan to rely on grants will require a proper funding plan and will require and I'm saying this with a history of having been a CAO for a short time, it will require grant applications approvals in hand before you start spending the money. You can't count on another political branch in Alberta not changing the rules on MSI or whatever while you're going through this construction. You have to have your approvals in hand before you start to dig. It'd be my strong request and recommendation. And in order to support an application for a grant, it would be helpful for you as a council and the administration to have significant public support and input. Under the MGA, as a council, you know probably as well as I that you are creatures of statute. High River is empowered with the power of a natural person, but as council, you must exercise it only within the statutory framework of the MGA. So Iris and Carol and Maureen have spent a lot of time reading through the MGA. It's important. It's the framework for what you do, and it's what we rely on as your citizens to be able to understand what it is that you're doing. So you may only act by resolution or bylaw, but you can also, prior to those resolutions or bylaws, engage community involvement. Trying to shorten these remarks up a little bit. So what are the petitioners expecting? They're expecting information for the public before you start doing anything more. They are expecting that under all of the circumstances, given the MGA concerns that we have, that you put a stop work order in place for what is currently being done. That would be the responsible thing to do until such time as you have the funding sorted out, the planning sorted out, and the community engagement ongoing. We'd ask that you have the money before you start building. We'd ask that you have the reserves. If you're going to borrow, well, the petition has said, please don't. But if you're going to get grant funding, we would like you to have that money in the bank. It's not, grant funding isn't like a salary. You don't earn it. It's given to you by another level of government. And until it's in your bank account or until you have a promise of it in writing, you don't have it. We also heard some concerns which would give rise to the need for more public engagement about the change rooms. And we think, I'd like you to consult with the public about the change rooms and the design of the change rooms, and look into insurance aspects of the change rooms. There's a number of issues that have been raised by people as we've been canvassing. Some of you are going to say we've got a construction contract in place. Boy, I have to be just in the right place for this mic. And what are we going to do about that? Well, I mean, certainly consult with your lawyers, but there's such a thing called a frustration of a contract. And that is, if you've signed a contract with somebody to build, but you're unable to proceed with it through factors unforeseen, that can either postpone or cancel a contract until you're ready to proceed, if you're ready to proceed. And that's something that you'll need to look into. And I guess the community would also appreciate knowing how much has been spent to date, and that may be available on the website. I'm not as good at Iris on your website, so I haven't figured that out. But I think the community is wanting more transparency from council, and the community is also wanting an opportunity to balance this borrowing against long-term issues of infrastructure, such as wastewater and water management, things that are core to what council does. Council has core responsibilities, and I'm going to be blunt, recreation is not one of them. Providing potable water and providing water treatment, those are core services. Safety is a core service, but we have to see how you have balanced all of those long-term, which explains why you've got a 5-year plan that they want. And we want to see how you have balanced those long-term concerns against sort of a need versus a want. And we all have wants. We can't always have them when we want them. We can work towards them, but we would like to see that balancing of needs versus want. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. And Iris, can you provide us a copy of what, or email it to us, or there's an enormous amount of information in there that we need to have reviewed.
I do have a 2-page summary of those items that I can start with, and then if you'd like, I could still email the full package.
I'd like you to email me exactly what you said in the meeting today.
Would you also like the 2-page summary? No.
Sure, more the better, yeah.
Do I hand that?
Pardon me?
Who do I hand the 2-page summary to?
I, myself, or Chris would be just fine.
I think I only have.
Any questions from council? Back to any of the presenters regarding the petition or other items. Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mr. Snodgrass. No questions to you ladies that were presenting to us. Just a thank you on my behalf. There's a lot of information there for wanting to share and getting that email to us. We appreciate that, and having, from CAO Prosser through to our CFO to review the information. I know I said before with the 254 piece out of the MGA, that was, for me, there's a lot of stuff in there, and that was not something that jumped out in my head. So again, thank you for pointing that out. We don't sit up here and take our jobs lightly, or I don't know anybody here that has ill intent in the decisions we make. But as a community, with what you guys brought up, there's lots here to look at and review and move forward with. So I want to thank you ladies for that.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you. Much like Councillor Nychuk has just said, I'd like to make a special note and thank you for all of the time and effort that you've put in to bring this forward. Iris, your information was outstanding, the amount of work that you had to put in to find all of that. Thank you. It just shows your integrity and seriousness of the issue. So again, thank you for your efforts.
No one else. So obviously we're going to take all the comments that have been brought forward, and like Michael has said, there's no ill intent from anybody. That's not why we put our hands up, is to do something sneaky or behind the scenes. We try to do things as transparent as possible. It's an enormous undertaking to do projects like this. And the one piece that I do want to speak to is this section 254 that kind of Maureen brought to our attention. And it's a huge learning piece, of course, and one that any other borrowing bylaw that I've signed off on, I can't see where Iris is, doesn't come into play because we've never built something, right? The last thing that was borrowed on and built on would have been the field house. But the Section 254 and the way that borrowing is laid out is actually brilliant on the government's part, because it outlines exactly what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and having it not take place prior to having it take place prior to construction is, of course, a significant part of that. Now, I've talked about what the process of the flow chart that staff were following, and that's right off the government website as well, and in nowhere in there does it mention 254. But no excuse, it is absolutely written in the MGA as exactly what you folks read out. The brilliant part about it is that if this process had been followed exactly the way it is, the original referendum was absolutely 100% unnecessary to do that. Previous council wanted to do that, and they made it non-binding, knowing full well that there would be at least 4 new councillors, if not a whole slate of 7. There'd be at least the majority of 4 that would be new councillors. And they didn't want to, they made it non-binding so as to not handcuff them on a decision that they weren't part of and were not educated fully on prior to that. So that's why it became a non-binding referendum. Now, obviously the referendum happened and 4 new councillors came on board. They got educated, and we decided to continue to move forward to the pool expansion. The brilliant part about the MGA borrowing section is that you can start your borrowing bylaw process and do first reading, and then it automatically triggers the petition period, which is exactly what you folks put together. There's no referendum needed at that point, because the petition period gets triggered. Then if the numbers come and the community says, yeah, we're not comfortable with this, or we don't like it, and you brought the numbers forward, then that automatically, if council wishes to continue on with it, it automatically triggers its own referendum on its own. Outside of an election and everything, it's only on that piece. But that's the brilliant piece of it, is that if we'd have known about this process clearly when this all started, this all follows through. And that's why there's not a public hearing portion to this. That's why in the borrowing section of the MGA, there is no requirement for a public hearing, because of this petition period that can trigger reset. I know you don't like it, but that's the way. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to look at Carol, and I can see your head shaking. So, but that's why there's no public hearing piece for the actual bylaw itself, is because, which normally there is for municipal bylaws, that we always have a public hearing piece. With this one, because there's a petition, legislative petition period in there that can trigger a full-blown community referendum, that's why they don't have that in there. So the way it's laid out, and I've had a couple of other communities, mayors and I talking about this, it's not really well known, this little section. And so it's a big learning curve that we can share with others and make damn sure it doesn't happen again. There's no question. It was a miss. It was a mistake on our part. And we will take all of Iris's, what she had in there. I want it fully reviewed by our CAO and our CFO. And we will be discussing that further in how to proceed. But, you know, I do want to assure everybody that there is nothing, you know, that we're trying to sneak this through in any way, shape, or form. It's just not. We view this project as a very important piece for our community to expand on our aquatics facility for attraction of young families and you know, just a better aquatics facility, period. Right now, we do not have that, and this is a project the council has chose to make better in our little community. That's all. So some people want it, some people absolutely don't want it. Couldn't care less if it exists, couldn't care less if the current facility existed or not. But it's a council decision to move forward in that direction, so we will continue to do that. But at the same time, we want to make darn sure that, yes, we are doing everything according to the MGA and according to municipal affairs. Now, the other piece, last 11 years, obviously, we've done an enormous amount of use of grants, whether it become through the flood recovery pieces and all the funding that we, you know, $500 million that we did through that, or if it's something as simple as using our MSI and these other provincial grants that we get allocations from. You know, like the fire hall, we used it for that. Did we have the money in the bank for the fire hall when we used that? No, because the timing doesn't line up with Alberta government finance and their budget process to receive those funds. But we get letters of what do you call it? Here's your allocation, and it does give us numbers, and we've never had that taken back from us. So they allow that to us so that we can make our budget decisions. So there's no, not at this time. So at this, what we're going to do is take Iris's comments. Obviously, there's a lot of information in that, and we'll get that reviewed. We still got our budget process going on, so we'll continue to discuss it through there. Councillor Kinghorn has...
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass, and again, thank you to the committee and the people that spent all this time going around door to door and really highlighting the problem with the bylaw. But I want to talk about the referendum, if I may. I ran for council, I talked about the pool, I talked about people, and I saw the results of that referendum. When I was elected to council, I was elected to represent every individual in this community, whether they're 16, 80, or 20. All that information gathered, talking to young people, being part of the committee that formed this, that did the design work, thank you to you as well. So, although the referendum, there was more opposed than in favor, I don't believe that was the will of the entire community. I think that there's a lot of people out there that did not get an opportunity. Hold on. There's people out there that did not get the opportunity to vote. If we're going to get it, the voters were allowed to vote, but there are plenty of people in this community that did not get the opportunity to vote. And well, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what you're trying to do. We are moving ahead. So I'm not going to argue with you, but there are a lot of people in this community that didn't get the opportunity to vote on that referendum. Their age.
Yours, because you didn't put it out to everybody.
For
enough people to know that they would even know how to sign their ballot, to leave them empty. They didn't know how to do it. They weren't informed by the people handing them the ballot. The whole thing was just a travesty. Yes.
Finished?
Not yet. I've got more to say.
Are you okay? You're good?
I'm not going to argue.
Okay.
There's no point in apologizing and being defensive. Be humbled by what you've heard. Because that's what this is, a humbling experience.
Ma'am, I made the decision to vote in favor of this because I listened to people in town. I listened to teenagers, I listened to adults, I listened to seniors, I listened to a whole bunch of people in town. And that's what made me make my decision when I voted yes in favor of this project. I didn't do it because it puts anything in my pocket. I didn't do it because it does anything for my kids who are off doing their thing. I did it for the kids that are around High River today, the seniors, everybody in this community, not one group. And if you recall, it was defeated by, I think, what was the number, 200 and some odd votes or something like that?
346.
With 300 votes. Yeah, on a non-binding referendum. How many people didn't get the opportunity to vote? I'm done. Thanks, Mayor.
So yeah, I don't want to turn this into a fight of any kind in our council chambers today, and there's, pardon me? Yeah, I said we're not going to turn this into any kind of an argument in council chambers here today. So we've received the delegation. We know what the petition numbers are. Of course, they've met the threshold needed. We have Iris's comments that we will provide to our CAO and CFO to have them reviewed, and we'll discuss those through the budget process. So at that point, we're going to move on to the other business that we have to take care of today. So we're going to move on to item 6.1, second and third reading for the town plan, bylaw 4629-2024. Sarah? Halid? Just give it a few minutes here to lead while people make their way out. Okay, go ahead, Halid.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I do not have a formal presentation, but I would like to thank Council.
Mr. Wardley, Ken? Wardley, if you want to have conversation, can we just do it out in the hallway, please? Because that's all we can hear is...
Thank you.
You got a big voice, right? So, thank you very much. Go ahead, Halid.
So I do not have a formal presentation, but I would like to thank Council, the task force, and the community for their support, and in the last 16 months or so, for sharing their insights and for providing invaluable input for the project team, which resulted in a great policy document. Your comments are invaluable and were critical to helping us really understand and refine and reshape and create options for a great policy framework for the town and whatnot. Upon the adoption of this plan, administration will start working on the implementation program immediately with some metrics to be used for implementing the town plan. The implementation program will ensure that the town plan is kept up to date and reflective of the community's values as well as socioeconomic and environmental trends. It will also ensure that the town's subdivision and development authority, they are guided by strictly by the vision, the objectives, the policies of the plan in their decision-making process. It will also ensure that the members of the subdivision and development appeal board, they receive the training that they need so that they have regard to the new vision and the policies of the town plan in their decision-making process. In addition, administration will also work on a monitoring program with a comprehensive list of indicators for evaluating the effectiveness of the policies over the next decade or so. These steps will provide the town with clear and concise tools that will be used to measure the progress and the achievement we make through the implementation of the policies throughout the next 2 or 3 decades. So with that, I'm happy to really thank again Council, and I think we have our chair of the task force, Ed Cameron, is here as well. And they've put a lot of work and a lot of effort into this project, and the community as well. They put a lot of effort into this project, and finally we have a great document that we're proud of. It's high river made town plan. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thanks very much, Khalid. Can you just, how, when we sent this to CMRB, how that process works? Because it never did come to the board. So why is that?
Yes. Yeah, so when we submitted the draft town plan to the CMRB board, the process there, they have a third party review. They review the draft plan. They provide the recommendation to the CMRB administration, either approve it or reject it. Based on their recommendation, if it is not approved, then that will end the process, and they will communicate with the municipality to try to withdraw it maybe, and adjust it and then resubmit. If it's approved, then the board will circulate the draft plan to the member municipalities, and they're given 30 days to review the draft plan. And if any municipality wanted to challenge the draft policy document, they can do so. If they challenge it, they have to make a presentation in front of the board. Within the 30 days, if the board has not received any challenge from any municipalities, that means the draft document will be automatically approved by the board. And it doesn't have to go to the board anymore. And that's what happened, and we've received a written confirmation from the board that it has been approved.
Thanks, Khalid. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to extend my own thanks for being part of the process and part of the discussions and part of the overall experience, to particularly Ed Cameron for taking over and being our chair, to Lorraine Watson, Blair McNaughton, Kevin Generou, David Moretta, our staff, Khalid, Marta, Donna, Sarah, and if I've missed anybody, my apologies. And to the council chair, or council participants, including Craig, Jenny, Jamie Barton, and Chris Prosser. It was an extraordinary experience over many months, and I think is a really nice reflection of where we hope to take our town in the future. So thank you to all who had a vested interest.
Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass, and thanks, Councillor Schmidt. Same words as she said, for sure, for all those people. It was a very unique and interesting experience. Being new to a council position, it was definitely gave me a lot of knowledge and understanding of our town in general. And if you read through the document, it just has maps and the feasibilities of walkabilities, transportation. It just covers all aspects of our town that I don't think I would have had the opportunity to be a part of in just the 3 short years I've been in this position, and now have the knowledge and understanding that was in that town plan. So thank you, Khalid, for taking that on, and Ed, for sure, he brought a lot of light to our meetings. It was a great experience.
Councillor Barton?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to reflect on the very same things that Kelly and Jenny had brought up. It was very rewarding experience for many different reasons, because there was a huge cross-section of our community that was part of this whole project, because it wasn't just the committee members. We had various different groups, whether they were healthcare groups or different sectors of our economy, different sectors of our community, the makeup of our community, that came in and had input, and it was very eye-opening. I've lived here for 53 years, and I gained a greater appreciation of how this community was built and why we live here, right? So thank you to everybody that participated.
So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that Council give second reading to bylaw 4629-2024, and that Council give third and final reading to bylaw 4629-2024.
You have a motion, Mayor?
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Salid. And thanks, Ed, for your enlightenment at every single meeting. I'll call it enlightenment. Okay, second and third reading and the petition. Chris?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. So as Council's aware, we have a valid petition before you. We've been able to vet it and confirm that there's 1,814 signatures, which 117 have been stricken from that petition because they're not are invalid for several reasons, including not residing in the community, illegible information that we could not decipher. We also verified members on the petition as well. We conducted random phone calls to ensure that those people did actually participate in the petition signing process. So we did that verification process and made sure that it met those requirements. Based upon that, the recommendation is not to proceed with second and third reading. Now, Council certainly has options to consider. One is to proceed with the recommendation and not proceed with the bylaws. Two, within 90 days of today, proceed with a binding plebiscite to take this to a vote of the public. And that would put us into middle of January for a binding vote with the community. Or to look at other options from that perspective to fund them and continue on with the project. And so that's kind of the rationale for the recommendation that you see before you. Based upon that, we feel that we're recommending not to proceed to a plebiscite, but to defeat the bylaws and look at other options. Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thanks, Chris. So obviously, Chris outlined, of course, recommendation is that we defeat the borrowing bylaw, or we chose to move forward with it and go into a binding plebiscite referendum, which, in my mind, there's absolutely no point in doing because of Section 254, where we have already started this project. So there's just no point. So I'll be supporting the motion to defeat the bylaws. Any other questions? Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. No, same thoughts, but I'm already thinking ahead that we have a project that's underway. Iris brought up a long list of things that I'm hopeful that CAO Prosser and our CFO can go through to provide answers for, and that we can find the right direction for not only for council through to the members of our community. So again, I guess to be clear, I'll be voting to defeat the bylaw as well.
Yeah, and you know, you're absolutely right. In defeating any method of borrowing from the provincial government, that's not going to be available for this project, of course, after this. So as was mentioned, my proposal that I put forth to to council at a budget meeting the other day, and is currently being vetted by our CFO. So, and he will be, I guess, coming back. When's the next budget meeting?
We'll be bringing it back
November
November 12th.
12th. So we'll be discussing further how to complete the project. So, no further questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council defeat bylaw 4633/2024.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Councillor reports. See none here, none. Board committee reports. Anybody? And then we have a little bit of time if there's any public comments, and I'll ask for public comments not regarding the pool expansion, simply because we spent almost an hour and a half on that. But if there's any other comments that anybody wishes to share. Carol? Pardon me? Yeah, no, that's fine. Come forward, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your feedback about our presentation. It means a lot, and it was a lot of hard, thought out work. I just kind of want to address, for me, it's a little bit of the elephant in the room. I appreciate that Councillor Nychuk and Councillor Jones in previous meetings, you've acknowledged and apologized for your lack of finding the Section 254. And knowing that I've been in your chair before, and I know I was teased because I'd carry that thing around with me, and it did cure my insomnia because I would read it before bed. But never have any of us had any expectation that council should know the ins and outs of the MGA. It is the guiding document for sure, and my expectation as a former councillor, of course, is when you see sections in your agenda package that you actually research. My question is, and it's not to throw anyone under the bus, but when you think about who is the umbrella to protect council and to make sure that the legislation is being done accurately, falls in the direction of the CAO and Ledge Services and even the CFO. And so I would just put out there, I'm just hopeful that there's some internal discussions about how exactly did this happen. Because my expectation would be, I remember back in the day that, you know, Kara would catch things or whatever, or Tom, and this is the elephant in the room, because we sure don't elect you guys to think that you're going to go home and memorize the MGA. What we do expect as citizens, that the administration is very well versed to protect our council, who is then protecting us. So thank you.
No, and it's a valid point, Carol. But at the end of the day, you know, yeah, we used to kind of poke fun at you sometimes because you'd carry that thing around like a Bible. There's no question. But at the end of the day, we do have a level of responsibility, especially to that MGA. That's what governs us. We have already had conversations with both CFO and CAO regarding how did this happen, where was the miss. Like I said, that's the flow chart everybody was following, and nowhere on here does it say 254, but it doesn't, it's a moot point because it is written directly in the MGA that everybody has a copy of now. So, you want to comment at all? Or?
No, and I can clearly say that I'll take responsibility for it because it was a miss. At the end of the day, we went through that section, we went through the borrowing aspect of things, and none of us picked it up. And so, our mistake.
Well, and I value that, just speaking as a petition representative. And it's important. We know you're all human, but it's just like when you've got citizens like Maureen that just want some clear answers about, like, have you got the letters received? So it's not like we're ganging up. That's what I just want to say, that this is about accountability. It's not driving anyone into self-preservation mode. So just to remember that we all know we're all human, And I think it just would have been really nice publicly if during this, when this oops happened, that we knew that you guys had actually had that discussion about where did it land. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I can assure you we did, and we will have more. Anyone else? Public comments? Council correspondence? Sorry, go ahead, Ken.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Ken Brott. I listened to Khalid talk about the new bylaw and plan. As a past chairman of the Subdivision Planning Appeal Board, I do have one concern, is that the town is going to try and educate that board on your vision for things. That board is independent. You got to remember that, respect it, and
sorry, Ken, I've kind of lost you.
Well, the point is that when Khalid says we want, like, our volunteers that serve on the Subdivision Appeal Board, we want to give them insight into what our vision is.
Yeah.
But that board is independent of town and everything else. It is formed by the Subdivision Appeal Act, and those members, when they sit, they got to take everything into consideration.
Yeah.
That is something paramount to it. So I just wanted to clarify that one piece, because when Khalid says we want to educate them to the way we want things done, that is not how that board meets. They're independent of council. They make their decision. And yeah, if I sound upset by that, because we made a decision with our board, every other volunteer was in this room that night getting appreciation. And our subdivision appeal board was in another room meeting our lawyer, because we made a decision that the town did not appreciate. I'll leave it at that, but that's the reality of it. That board is independent. When they make a decision, they made the decision. When that whole case is reheard, this is about the liquor store at Sobeys, they came up with the exact same decision that we had, that the town spent first money for the lawyers for us, about $40,000, and then lawyers for the town to appeal us. So there is a realization that that board is formed by the Act, and you can't influence or expect it to make decisions that you want.
Yeah, but it's also important that the subdivision appeal board understands what is said in the town plan, because that's kind of the town, it's the
absolutely
town plan,
but
right? We're not going in there to tell them what to do, because you're absolutely correct. They are absolutely independent.
I just wanted to clarify that.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks. As Khalid has left the room, I don't think that was Khalid's intent at all, was to say we're going to direct the appeals board. I think he was saying, now that we have a new plan, we want to make sure that they're understanding of it. As you said, Ken, there's a lot of information that's taken into consideration when that board makes decisions, and I think that was his intent. By no means was it his push to say we're going to get them to know what it is, or was it council's intent to push that? I think maybe you misunderstood. I don't want to say that you're providing an insinuation, but I just want to speak on Khalid's behalf because he's not here right now, so I think maybe that was just a little bit of misunderstanding in his words. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Council correspondence for information. Correspondence from Harvard District Healthcare Foundation. A thank you for the dinner and auction that a lot of us took part in last weekend, 2 weeks ago. We had an absolute blast. It was a great time. They put on a heck of a little party there for us. So, and a lot of money raised for the Healthcare Foundation. Correspondence regarding the hate crimes and vandalism. Greg, do you want to come and just give us a little update with, some of the vandalism that's been taken care of or happening around town, and what the RCMP is aware of and doing?
Yeah, okay. So it was brought to the media attention here recently that there's what they were describing as a trend of hate crimes in the community, in more specifically towards the LGBTQ community in our town. So we've gone back and checked our records, gone through police reporting. And from in the first incident, so I can see what we have is 4 incidents that have occurred since I believe it was May the 10th up until basically today's date. And in that time, we've had four incidences of vandalism. 3 incidences of vandalism and 1 incident of a theft of a pride flag. And these have all occurred at residences that have symbols of pride associated to them. So with that in mind, I wouldn't say we necessarily connected it as a trend in the community. Each incident unto itself was investigated as any other mischief would be investigated in town or vandalism. Unfortunately, through canvassing, looking for video surveillance, forensic evidence of any kind, we haven't been able to identify any suspects with relation to any of these, any of these crimes. That's not uncommon. Our solve rate on vandalism is quite low, unfortunately to say. In that time period from when the pride flag was stolen till now, we have, I believe, approximately 40 other acts of vandalism in the town of High River, which would include egging residences, vehicles, breaking vehicle windows, throwing objects at houses, broken windows. So it's not uncommon. What's important to say is that we're not leaving out the potential that it is motivated by hate, and we're continuing to look into the matter. But I would say I can't unequivocally say at this time that the incidences are motivated by hate. We have no messaging associated to any of the crimes, and without being able to speak to a suspect, I can't actually say for sure that what someone's motives are. So that's kind of our stance on it right now. We want to work with the community and with all people in the community to ensure safe environment in the town of High River. No matter what your gender, race, whatever the case may be, you deserve to have a safe environment to live in High River, and your dwelling especially. Crimes against your dwelling house or vandalism or break and enters to a house, they hit really close to home because that's your safe space. So we have engaged our hate crimes unit, and we're liaising with them, and we're looking to, again, just work with the community. Our members continue to be on patrol. I wish we could say we catch everyone who's out doing crime, but the reality is even with proactive patrols, we're not catching people in the act of doing things, and much often it's after the fact. So certainly alive to the issue, and we want to work with the community, and we're going to continue to look into these matters just to ensure that we do have a safe space in our community where it's required.
Thanks, Craig. You and I spoke about an option, possibly using Crime Stoppers to help maybe flush somebody out, that an anonymous tip that we might get through a program like that. Is that
we're exploring options. We basically, I think we've arrived in talking with our strategic communications group that with the media presence we're getting right now, that's probably going to be our strongest ally. But we also want to remind everyone we need to report things. So if something is suspicious or something's in your neighborhood, please report it to us. And if anyone has any information, to reach out to us. So I think that's probably where we're at right now, is just with the most recent media attention we're getting, we're hoping we're going to generate some interest or some people contacting us with regards to these incidents.
Thanks, Greg. Councillor Kinghorn.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Recently in one of our meetings, you had talked about a camera program that the RCMP was looking into. Can you enlighten us a little bit on that? And perhaps, I'm optimistic that something like that would help in an arrest.
Yeah, so the rural area of Alberta actually already has a system called Capture in place. And what that's designed to do is you as a homeowner can go onto a website and upload the information regarding what camera systems you would have at your residence. So that if we have a crime in the area, we can access the data on the website. So I'm currently working with Chief Zebedee, and we're working with the town IT department to create a similar database for High River. So we would have a website, homeowners could go, they could add their camera system to it, so we would know where cameras are located strategically. As a rule, in any kind of mischief or any complaint, if we have a break-in or whatever it is, we're always going to do neighborhood inquiries. We had a stolen vehicle recovered today. We were able to get footage from a camera across the street of the vehicle being dumped and another vehicle picking it up. But having a database would certainly help us and make it a lot quicker for us to say, yeah, we know we have cameras in this area or don't.
Working now. Thanks, Greg. Any other questions? None? I'm going to ask for a motion from council to move in camera at this time to discuss a legal and a labor issue, please. Moved by Councillor Kinghorn. All in favor? Carried. It's just in the washroom for a minute. Reconvening from the in-camera session we just had, so that was the last item on the agenda, so I will move or adjourn the meeting at 5:35 p.m.